Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Shibe Sports Presents. My name is Johnny Goodtimes, and I am thrilled this morning to have with us from theathletic.com, Zach Berman. Zach, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. It's exciting to have you on here. We've obviously got a lot of buzz in the city right now about this past weekend, and I'm really dying to get your thoughts on it, both from the realist perspective and the what you're seeing and hearing from the fans. But I want to start with, I know that back in a former life, you did some writing for the Giants. Is that right?
Yes, I was the beat writer for the Giants for the Star-Ledger in 2010 and 2011.
Right. So I'm guessing you know a few people that are still around that organization. How were they feeling? Before we even get to the Eagles, I want to know, how are they feeling about us hopping them to get Devonte?
Well, they got a first-round pick next year in the trade back with Chicago. So I don't think they are crying over there, because that was a very good trade when you look at the value. But certainly they're going to be covering Devonte Smith 2 times a year now. The Giants will 2 times a year for the Eagles, hope for the next decade. So we'll see how that goes. Certainly the Eagles got an outstanding player, and he's one who would have fit well in the Giants. But all that said, the Giants trading back from pick 11 with Chicago, getting that first-round pick next year, that was also very good value for the Giants.
Okay. How excited do you think Eagles fans should be about Devonte Smith? Obviously, you've done some digging on this, and I know that a lot of people were really hoping we would somehow get him, and all offseason, regardless of where we picked, which ping-ponged around a bit. What are your thoughts on him, and how excited should Eagles fans be?
Well, he's an outstanding player, and the Eagles I would say Eagles fans should rest assured that they have the best receiver they've had in years coming into the NFL. Now, it's obviously a projection, but when you see what he did in the SEC against the elite competition on a consistent basis, from his freshman year when he caught the game-winning touchdown of the national championship in overtime, to his senior year when he won the Heisman Trophy and set all kinds of records. In between, I mean, you look at that 2020 team, or I'm sorry, the 2019 team that had Jerry Jeudy, that had Henry Ruggs, that had Jalen Waddle, obviously. Devonte Smith was the top receiver there. So when you see his production year in, year out, the way he's wired, his technical skills at the position, they're outstanding. The question, of course, is his size. There's not a lot of precedent for someone that size succeeding in the NFL. I say, if you're going to make an exception, make sure he's exceptional. And to date, Devonte Smith has been exceptional.
Well, of the rest of the draft picks after Devonte, which one do you think has the most upside? Which one do you think that the fans should be most excited about?
Well, as far as the most upside, the second-round pick, Landon Dickerson, there's obviously injury concern, right? Yeah, he's coming off a torn ACL. He's had 4 seasons in college and prematurely because of injuries. So there's a major injury concern. That's also why he was there on the board at 37. If he's healthy, he can be the type of answer the Eagles want on the offensive line going forward. There are major questions at center and at right guard. And both Jason Kelce, who this could be his final year, and Brandon Brooks, who's coming off a major injury and is also north of 30. When you have someone like Landon Dickerson, who has the position versatility, who has the skill, I think you can see that next chapter on the offensive line. So in terms of upside, I would definitely point to Landon Dickerson.
All right. Well, your most recent piece in The Athletic is kind of now that the fallout from the draft has happened, looking at the position by position and the depth chart. And I got to say, looking at this piece, the team's not as bad as I thought they were. Like, I kind of feel like this offseason, we're like, all right, Doug's out of here. Carson's, this is out of here, a total rebuild. We're going to be looking forward to a 3-13 team as we try to get a high draft pick next year. But then I look, at what you posted, and it's like, we actually do have some talent scattered around here. And what I'd like to do is kind of go position by position. And I'd love to get your grade, A through F, as we go position by position and what you think. So we'll start with quarterback. And I'm obviously, I think everybody's curious what you think about Jalen Hurts, but let's start at quarterback. Hurts and then Flacco is the backup. What kind of grade would you give this position?
Well, I would say right now a C, if that. I mean, Jalen Hurts is unproven. He started 4 games last year. He showed considerable upside, but also there are things he must work on. The completion percentage in particular. The ball touched the ground too much. Now, having better players around him will certainly help, and we'll see him in this scheme. But I'm not sold yet on Jalen Hurts. I'm not sure the Eagles are either. Joe Flacco is fine for a backup quarterback, but this is not a position where you say it's like on solid footing right now. There are a lot of questions, and it's something they still must figure out. So by the end of the year, we could be talking about that being an A. We could be talking about that being a B. But I would say right now that's a C, because it's certainly not top of the league at that spot.
All right. And the Flacco thing, I mean, obviously just insurance. You got a veteran, which I thought was interesting, because again, this is a team that I think most of us see as a rebuild. So kind of interesting that this team is kind of known for its backup quarterbacks at this point. We had one lead us to a Super Bowl. So I thought it was interesting that they went with somebody that was that much of a veteran. Do you think that had to do with wanting somebody that's been around to work with a young quarterback like Hurts?
Yeah, I think you want, well, not necessarily working with Hurts, but you just want someone back there who has experience. If something were to happen with Jalen Hurts, he could step in. If you have an unproven starting quarterback and an unproven backup quarterback, that's usually a bad situation. If you have the aging veteran sometimes as the starter, you want someone young with upside as the backup, and the inverse can be true when you have the younger quarterback. So I think it's more of a function of the fact that they have a second-year quarterback without much experience. Now you have a backup with as much experience as anyone in the NFL, which certainly makes sense. You can quibble about the amount of money they spent. You can quibble about Flacco's talent level at this stage of his career, or what he can produce at this stage of his career, but you can't question the career that he's had. And if you have a backup who's won the Super Bowl, has been a Super Bowl MVP, I think in the Eagles' eyes, that has value.
All right, well, let's go to running back, and we'll just list the first 3. We've got obviously Miles Sanders at the top. They just draft Kenny Gainwell, and of course Boston Scott, who we've seen have flashes of brilliance over the years. So, what's your grade on running back?
I would say B-, B. I really like Miles Sanders' upside. He did not show it as much last year. There were a handful of reasons, both the way he was used, he struggled catching the ball. But as far as a runner, I mean, you saw him being electric when he had the chance. And so he's entering his 3rd year. It's a different system. If the offensive line is healthier in front of him, that will certainly help. So I like Miles Sanders' upside. I think Kenny Gainwell can be an upgrade over Boston Scott, and we'll see how that works out. I still think the Eagles can use that bigger complementary back. They signed Jordan Howard to a 1-year deal. If Howard can get back to 2019 form, that would certainly be an answer to that question. But if he looks like he did last year, that would be problematic. So you kind of want running backs that are different types sometimes, and that's something that they still lack.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because with you do need Howard back, because right now you don't really have a 4th and 1 guy, right? You've got 3 guys that are pretty electrifying, but in the open field, but you don't have a guy that's just going to plow behind the tackle when you need to gain a yard.
Yeah, they would hope Sanders can do that, but certainly they don't have that 225-pound back, if you will. And you can also look at Jalen Hurts as a running back in certain situations, right? Like, he's going to carry the ball on 4th and 1. He can dive forward. He can go around the edge. So he has that skill set. But you are correct. If you're looking for that LeGarrette Blount type player, they don't have that.
We go to wide receiver. Obviously, Smith shoots to the top of the depth chart. And then we've got last year's first rounder, Jalen Reagor. And then we've got Travis Fulgham, who, kind of came out of nowhere this past season to help the team out. What do you grade these guys?
It's so hard to say without seeing them on the field, obviously.
Right,
But I mean,
yeah.
Devonte Smith is going to be an upgrade, right? So, I mean, maybe I would say C plus, B minus, but there's a lot of upside. Jalen Reagor in year 2 has upside. If Travis Fulgham can look more like he did in October than he did in November, there's benefit there. Greg Ward is a solid, albeit unspectacular, slot receiver. And then behind them, there are questions. Will they ever get anything out of JJ? Are they go Whiteside? Can Quez Watkins or John Hightower emerge into a solid player for you? But getting Devonte Smith is certainly an upgrade.
All right, well, let's go and let's go to tight ends. And I know we're going to get to this obviously with Goddard, at the top of the depth chart, and Zach Ertz still on the team. And I know that for a lot of folks, we thought that the draft was going to be the last Zach Ertz was going to be on this roster, and that didn't prove to be the case. So curious about what you think about Goddard, and also is Zach Ertz, is there actually a shot of him playing here this season, or are we just basically waiting to see if they can trade him before they cut him?
Yeah, I'll start with Zach Ertz. I mean, I'm surprised he's still on the roster. My guess is he'll still be elsewhere next season. I think that's the resolution he would like. I think if the team can find a deal that makes sense for both sides, it will get done. But clearly, you're past this pressure point in the offseason calendar. That does change the conversation. So we'll see. I would still expect Zach Ertz to play elsewhere. As far as Dallas Goedert, I think he's a good player, and I think that he has the upside to be a better player than he's been. He needs to stay healthy, number one. And he needs to be more consistent. But with him in that number one role, I would be optimistic about the tight end position for the Eagles. And it's a contract year for Goddard. It's year 4 for him. So you're expecting him to step up. So yeah, I think this is a solid B position. But if and when they move on from Ertz, there are questions behind Goddard if you go to 2 tight end sets.
All right, well, let's go to offensive line, and Nate Phillips-Williams actually posted here, we need a better line to help Jalen and Miles. We've got Malott at left tackle, Samalo at left guard, Kelsey, Brooks, and Johnson. What kind of grade you giving these guys?
Well, if they're healthy, I mean, you're looking B plus, A minus, right? Like the right side of the line in particular, Lane Johnson, Brandon Brooks coming off injuries. If they can return to form, that's as good of a right side as there is in the NFL. Jason Kelsey, we know he's established as a center. He's one of the best centers in the NFL for the past decade, and I think he's still playing at a high level. Isaac Seumalo coming off a major injury, but there's optimism he'll be healthy. Then left tackle, there's a competition. Is it going to be Jordan Mailata? Is it going to be Andre Dillard? I think based on the way they played last year, I think Jordan Mailata deserves to be the front runner based on the way he played last year. But Andre Dillard, they invested a first-round pick in him in 2019, and that investment didn't go out the door. And then Landon Dickerson really gives them solid depth if and when he's healthy. So health depending, which is a big variable here. But I would say like a B plus, A minus for that group, and it's really just the strength of the team.
All right, well, let's go to the defensive side of the ball. We'll go defensive linemen. We'll go Barnett, Hargrave, Cox, and Graham. What do you think? That's B plus, A minus. I mean, Fletcher Cox, he's older now, obviously, than he was a few years ago. Everyone's older than they were a few years ago. But as far as him being like top of the league defensive tackle, but still has that skill set. And curious to see him in this scheme. There's some projection about what this scheme will look like, but you're hoping that Cox and Hargrave gives you a formidable defensive tackle combination. Milt Williams is their 3rd round pick. You slot him behind those two, and then you have 2 edge guys in Graham and Barnett who are returning starters. And I would put Josh Sweat in there as a starting caliber defensive end. So between the 3 of them, your top 3 there.
That's a strong group. That's an A- group. And I think if you're looking for reason for optimism for the Eagles, it's that they're good along the line of scrimmage.
Right, and I think that we've got pretty good grades so far here, Zach, and things are looking pretty good. But now we're going to kind of end on a little bit of a negative, and we're going to go to the linebackers and the D-backs, and I think that's where probably the most concern is among Eagles fans. Is once you get past that D line, the defense looks real shaky.
Yeah, and I mean linebacker. So I guess I would say C minus there. I like the addition of Eric Wilson. I think that was a good signing at a good price, and I think he'll help. Behind him, Alex Singleton showed some promise last year, but I mean, I don't know if you're ready to kind of build your lineup with Alex Singleton in it. He'll have a chance to earn it. They need more from Davion Taylor, their third-round pick from 2020. TJ Edwards is a solid special teams guy. I don't know if you're ready to put him in the lineup. So yeah, after Eric Wilson, there are big questions there at linebacker. And then in the secondary, I mean, we can separate cornerbacks and safeties. Cornerbacks, I mean, that's a CC minus. Darius Slay needs to play better than he was last year, but I wouldn't be worried about Darius Slay. But opposite him, what do you have? And I still think that's yet to be determined. Do they keep Avonte Maddox on the outside, or do they move him to the slot? And if he goes into the slot, who's your starting outside corner? Is it Zach McPherson, or I should say Zach McPherson, your fourth-round pick this year? Do you go with Michael Jacquet? Do you go with Craig James? Or are you still signing somebody or trading for somebody? So I still think that's a position they can add to. And then at safety, Anthony Harris was a good pickup, but Roddy McLeod's coming off the second torn ACL in 3 years. So I would say that that's still a position with question marks. So I would have to say CC minus there because of the question marks with injuries.
Nate Phillips Williams asked, should the Birds go get Vander Esch from Dallas?
Well, he'll be a free agent after this year, but I don't know if they're going to move on from him quite yet. I mean, they didn't exercise his fifth-year option from what I understand, but I don't know if he's someone unless they were to release him. I don't know if he's someone who will be available to the Eagles, and if he was, the reason Dallas is probably moving on is because of the injury history. So that would be a question. He said Dallas cut him. Is that the case? I haven't seen that to be the case. No, I think they declined his fifth-year option, which means that he's a free agent after this year. So he'll be on the team for this season, but then he's a free agent after this year.
Right. Yeah. And here's a question I've got for you. You look at this, and I think a lot of us as fantasy sports players look at the Eagles and we say, okay, we've got an overabundance of tight ends. We've got Zach Ertz sitting here. We are desperate for some defensive backfield help. How can there not be a way to trade Zach Ertz for a defensive back? And I know that's just kind of the way the NFL's set up. There's not many player-for-player trades. Yeah. Why is that?
Yeah, salaries are one complication to it, right? Like a team needs to fit Zach Ertz's salary into their books. And then Zach Ertz, if he wants a contract extension, that's something you must consider as well. And then it's the thing you always hear is that it's not like baseball where the third baseman for the Yankees is the third baseman for the Phillies. You don't have schemes, right? In football, you have schemes. A player who's a press corner at one place needs to go somewhere else and be let's say an off ball or a cover two corner. So man and zone concepts are different. The way they're used, the complementary players are different. So there's a lot that goes into that in terms of the schemes that factor into it. But certainly if there's an option out there that could be a player for player trade, I think that would be appealing for the Eagles.
We talked to Trey Thomas a few days ago about how this was the craziest Eagles offseason since he played, and T.O. was doing the sit-ups in the driveway. And I wanted to get your thoughts as somebody that covered this past offseason. We saw Peterson get fired, then we saw Wentz get shipped to Indianapolis. Do you think when they fired Peterson, they thought they were still keeping Wentz? Was that kind of a favor to try to win back his favor? What was going on there?
No, I think those were two separate questions, right? I think the Peterson situation was more about the direction of the team going forward. And it was the coaching staff, and it was kind of embracing a transition period versus bringing back what you already have. So I think that factored into it too. As far as Carson Wentz, I think a lot of that was he didn't want to be here, right? And I think from the Eagles' perspective, the way he played last year was concerning, in that they wanted to start that clock over and take it on the chin with the cap space now, save some cash in terms of the trade, get some draft picks. If Carson Wentz doesn't play well this year, if he was on the Eagles and he didn't play well, they're not getting the draft pick compensation that they did, right? So it's a gamble, but I think it's one they were willing to take. But I think those two issues turned out to be separate issues.
And the other thing, of course, as part of that, obviously the Eagles brought in a new head coach, Nick Sirianni. A lot of folks, myself included, were kind of rooting for Deuce. We knew the players were behind him. We know he had shown what he could do. Through the years by, he was under 3 different head coaches and they all liked him enough to keep him around. So, and then you look at Sirianni and he doesn't have anything on his resume that pops out to you that's any more qualified than Deuce was. So I'm curious what your thoughts are in terms of why the Eagles didn't stay in-house and also why Sirianni, with a fairly limited resume, was the pick.
Yeah, it's a valid question, and I think Deuce Staley has a lot of attributes that will make him a successful head coach in this league. But clearly, the Eagles were looking for something different there, and whether it was going for a clean break, whether it was going for someone with more of a background working with quarterbacks, whether it was just their vision for how to turn this team around, they went with Sirianni. It's hard for me to say if it was the right decision or a wrong decision yet. I'm still getting to know Nick, and we'll see what he does this year. But Deuce Staley, I think he did what was best for him by going somewhere else, right? I think after you've worked for 3 head coaches and you don't get hired, in terms of career advancement, going to Detroit, in my opinion, it's going to be beneficial for him.
All right. Well, I want to wrap up by talking about a book you wrote a couple years ago. We're hoping to get it in store here before too long, because a great book. It's The Underdogs, and going back to Doug, it is the story of that magical run to the Super Bowl. Want to kind of get your perspective. Why'd you decide to write the book? And what is the memory that sticks most in your mind from that run?
Sure. So before I worked at The Athletic, I was the beat writer for the Eagles for the Philadelphia Inquirer, and I covered the team there from 2012 to the point they won the Super Bowl. And so I had all these years of background, of knowledge, of understanding, seeing how that team came together, seeing the different principles. And so I wrote the book because I wanted to tell the story of that team, and not just that season, but of the team, of the people, the characters, of the moments, and that's really what the story. That's what the book is. It takes you behind the scenes, yes, but it shows you who these people are. It shows you Howie Roseman, how he got pushed aside for a year, came back and built that roster. Doug Peterson, how 2016 there were a lot of questions about him after that year. And did an outstanding coaching job. How they went and got Carson Wentz, the season that he had, and then the injuries. Nick Foles, I covered him when he was with the Eagles the first time, when they traded him, when they brought him back, and just all these different characters around the team and how that team came together, and the moments and characters that made that team special.
And what was your one moment? Is there a single moment from that run that really sticks out in your mind?
Sure. I would say when Carson Wentz got hurt against the Rams in December 2017, and when it seemed like, all right, their luck ran out. They were the best team in the NFL at that point. They clinched the division title that day, but they lost their player who was playing at an MVP level at the most important position. And seeing the way that team galvanized, seeing what Malcolm Jenkins did in that locker room, seeing over the next few weeks what the coaching staff did with Nick Foles, what Nick Foles did himself to get comfortable. I would say that period from after Carson's injury to the Falcons win in the playoffs was a fascinating period, because It was not always smooth. It was rocky, and there were the Raiders game that year, the half against the Cowboys. I mean, it was not always smooth, and they found a way, and then even in the playoffs, that Falcons game, it was not the best football you've ever seen.
Loss.
Yeah, but they made it work. So I think that period really stuck out to me.
Gotcha. All right. Well, Zach, we want to thank you so much. Once again, Zach is at The Athletic, folks. If you don't already subscribe, just do so. Trust me, it is the best sports writing in the United States, point blank. I mean, I'm just, totally honest.
I appreciate that.
The Athletic is fantastic. And especially for local guys, just any guy that's whether it's Zach with the Eagles, and you've got the guys with the Phillies. I mean, they've just got such a great lineup. They've got Jason Stark. They've got just an incredible a lineup of the best sports writers in the country. So Zach, thank you so much for coming on with us here today. The book is called The Underdogs, and you can read Zach regularly on The Athletic, and also talking on the podcast on The Athletic as well, right?
Absolutely. The Birds with Friends podcast. You can go to theathletic.com/birds with friends. And then if you want to get the book Underdogs, the Philadelphia Eagles' emotional road to Super Bowl victory, and we'll work on getting it in your store as well.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much, Zach. Really appreciate you, man.
Great. Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.